Teachers threaten to walk off over outstanding leave fares. East New Britain cleaning up after torrential rains. And weather warnings for NGI and Morobe.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining me for Thursday's news. In a twist to the Butuka Academy enrollment situation, disgruntled parents whose children are attending the academy on merit are concerned about the lack of consideration of those involved in the closure and the number of school days their children are missing out on. Gathered yesterday outside the school gates, the parents were waiting for a favourable answer from Moresby South MP Justin Tichenko, the school board and leaders of the Motu Koita Assembly, who were said to be in a closed-door meeting in the school.
Seemingly, there were two groups of impatient parents waiting anxiously outside the school premises while a closed-door meeting was taking place inside one of the school buildings. One group consisted of Motu Koita locals, while the other consisted of parents who reside in the vicinity of Moresby South electorate. One long-time resident said his child was selected on merit, which is why he is attending Butuka Academy. His main concern now is the number of days his child is missing out on lessons in the classroom.
Our concern for our children is that 3 days they have not gone to school. Our children have missed 3 days of academic learning. And we are not here for the landowner issue or anything like that. That is for them. That is for them and the government. We are here simply to ensure that our children are enrolled and they continue to school. Our children are already enrolled. We are neighbors here. We are periphery. We live in the periphery of this vicinity. Our children cannot go to school at Gordon's.
Another adds that their children have been robbed of their rights to quality education, and the issue of land ownership should be taken out with the right authority without jeopardizing classes for the rest of the students attending the academy.
Affected parents want to know and get the answers both from the landowners and the education department to tell us where our children will go next, because we will not be part and parcel of their issue. We are very innocent, so on that.
A separate group consisting of Motu Koitabu and parents had an agenda of their own. They wanted to find out the reason why their children couldn't enroll in the academy and why other children were given priority over theirs.
As the government of this country, they must remember that we offered this land because we wanted our children to be educated.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. And our children have been suffering. We've been stayed out with our children for more than 6 weeks. That's why we are upset. That's the real reason why we closed the school. That's the real reason.
Much to their disappointment, both parties are yet to get a favorable response from the Moresby South member, the Motu Koita Assembly, and the school board about the next best option for the children's enrollment. Meanwhile, Acting Land Secretary Oswald Tolopa says Butuka Academy is not built on customary land and that allotments 17 and 18 of Section 128 are under the provincial and local level government affairs for educational purposes, and the process of transfer to NTD under a special purpose list for institutional purposes has begun and will be completed soon. Although this does not settle the issue at hand, it is clear that students will remain out of class until the lands and enrollment issue is sorted out properly. Anet Kora, National EMTV News.
The Paladin Group has defended its subcontracts with customary landowner groups in Manus and says it is not a party to any spin-off contracts which may have benefited the Speaker of Parliament and member for Manus, Job Pomat. In a media statement today, they said, quote, "We do not make payments that are not linked to a service and reject the notion in the media that any contracts with a Papua New Guinea entity are tainted by corruption," unquote. National Parliament Speaker Job Pomat, when speaking to NBC yesterday, stated that he has no business with Paladin and nothing to hide. Paladin Solutions supported the Speaker's statement that he has no business with Parent Investment, whose directors are listed under the Speaker's brother, Kepo Pomat. In the statement, Paladin also stated that they engage with communities wherever they work, and a director, Ian Stewart, will be presenting his methodology in Port Moresby at a PNG Security Congress scheduled for March. A nationwide walk-off can be expected from teachers around the country if all leave fares, including the 3% salary increase, are not met by the government before Term 2 of the school calendar year resumes. This is the demand put forward yet again to the national government by the Papua New Guinea Teachers Association National General Secretary Ugwalubu Moana.
The call comes after frustrated teachers in Madang province boycotted classes because their leave fares for 2018 were not paid. Ugwalubu said every year the Teachers Services Commission had consistently budgeted and allowed for this entitlement to be dispersed at the provincial level by the provincial administration, and unfortunately these funds are being abused at the provincial level, leaving teachers frustrated and in unnecessary dilemma.
We are disappointed that the provincial administrations saw fit to divert and abuse the teachers' leave fares throughout the country. Since they have been denied of their leave fares in the Highlands provinces, we are calling on the provinces in the Highlands region to make sure that all teachers' leave fares are properly administered. If there are outstanding leave fares to be paid, the provinces must pay that.
A chronic problem in all provinces that needs to be addressed cohesively by all stakeholders in the education service delivery machinery. PNGTA is taking the stand to make sure that teachers are paid their hard-earned entitlements that come under the program mandated by the Teaching Service Commission. PNGTA has proposed for a complete review of this entitlement in the upcoming negotiations with the government in April of 2019.
The Papua New Guinea Teachers Association called on the Teaching Service Commission and all line departments in government to make sure that any decision to pay 3% salary increases for teachers and other public servants in the country must be added to.
Moana further stressed on the non-compliance to the 2017 to 2019 salary fixation agreement, calling on the government to honor its commitment and immediately pay the teachers their outstanding 3% increment 2018 and 2019 by the first term of 2019 school year. The agreement, as discussed and agreed between the PNGTA and the government, should have been completely paid out by October of 2018. However, he said the government has failed in its part by paying partial backdated payment smeared with unexplained deductions in the teachers' salaries. Failure by the government to address teachers' entitlements will result in a nationwide strike at the end of Term 1. Anet Kora, National EMTV News.
Heavy rains in East New Britain province have subsided and repair work is being carried out along the major roads. The East New Britain provincial government hasn't formally released the total cost of damages, but it is understood the amount may add up to several millions. The cost will include the repair work on road infrastructures and those who have lost their homes and belongings during the flash floods.
It's been 25 years since the last natural disaster hit East New Britain province. The eruption of Mount Vulvur and Vulcan volcanoes in September 1994 have devastated Rabaul town with a cost of damage amounting to over several millions of kina. But this week it was a different story. Torrential rains that continued since last Saturday caused flash floods that blocked off all main access roads and destroyed homes, leaving families homeless and without food and clean drinking water. During the 1994 eruptions, East New Britain was a center of attention both for the PNG and Australian government and other foreign donors who came for the rescue. But unlike the 1994 disaster, the damages caused by last weekend's continuous rains hasn't got much attention. The only people talking are either those who have lost their homes and belongings during the flash floods and those who have been cut off completely from accessing basic services. The East Nubitan Provincial Administration has remained tight-lipped over when they will be attending to those who needed help, and those who were affected have more questions than answers.
We have not received any word from the authorities yet.
In recent years, disaster alerts in East Nubitan have tested the preparedness of the province to respond to any emergency situations. This week's flash flood has yet again brought to light what's lacking in a province prone to disasters, and those in authority don't appear to be ready for it. This week's heavy downpour may have driven up the cost of repair, mostly for road infrastructures, into several millions of kina. The provincial government hasn't released any official figures as yet, but it is understood a proposed submission will be made to the national government for financial assistance. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
Meanwhile, schools in East New Britain have been suspended since yesterday following the ongoing torrential rains in the province. The Office of the Provincial Administrator has issued a notice to all schools in the province to call off classes after all major roads have become relatively blocked by floods and landslips. East New Britain Provincial Administrator Wilson Matava urged all schools to adhere to the notice and prioritise the safety of their students. All schools will resume next Monday. A murder suspect from the Malawan tribe of Lagam in Enga province surrendered to police recently over the killing of a primary school teacher. The incident occurred during the 2019 New Year's Eve from fighting over alcohol. Enga Provincial Police Commander Joseph Tondop thanked the suspect for surrendering, and he urged others on the run to do the same.
The suspect, Kelly Lapel, is 23 years old and from the Kenowai clan of Layagam in Enga province. Lapel and the deceased were arguing over a bottle of beer when the incident happened. They were both under the influence of alcohol when the suspect allegedly hacked the deceased during the argument. Lapel, who surrendered himself to police, apologized and said he did not want things to escalate in the village over his wrongdoing.
Please, mix it trouble long me appeal and me blow me, line blow you blow. Me was man, no I blow God, no Lord, I blow people here. No problem, mix it long please. No man must die again.
Tribal fighting is a nightmare in Enga province. The current PPC, Joseph Tondop, is working tirelessly with the local Peace and Good Order Committee, NGOs and Enga provincial government to reduce or prevent it from happening. It is seen as an hindrance for the province to prosper. Enga PPC Joseph Tondop acknowledged Lapel for setting a good precedence for the rest of Enga to follow.
You're wrong here. That such man by talk you wrong and you will have caught now by high blood judge or magistrate by talk you wrong now.
PPC Tondop's focus for 2019 is to stop tribal fighting and payback killings in the province. Tondop is still maintaining his stance not to allow compensation to happen in Enga province over killings and to allow for the full force of law to take its course. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
A suspect in Hela province wanted for numerous crimes has finally been captured by PNG Defence Force soldiers based in Hela. He was also in possession of an unlicensed firearm. He admitted to the court that he was carrying around an unlicensed firearm and was sentenced to 2 years in prison with hard labour. Hela Provincial Police Commander Martin Lakari warned the public to abide by law or the law will come down hard on them. You're with National EMTV News. Stay tuned for more stories after the break. Welcome back. International air travellers out of PNG can expect one more player joining the Port Moresby-Brisbane route. The Independent Consumer and Competition Commission today granted authorisation for PNG Air to code-share its services with Virgin Australia. Chief Executive Officer Paula Sainz said whilst acknowledging that free-sale code-share arrangements are not very competitive, the arrangement will allow a new marketing career to enter the market. Amongst the public benefits ICCC listed in regards to its approval of the agreement is the code-share arrangement had the potential of increasing competition between Air Niugini and PNG Air in the domestic market and would lead to beneficial effects such as reduced airfares and better services for domestic services. The National Weather Service has issued a gale force and strong wind warning for the New Guinea Islands region and Morobe province. This appears to be effects from a cyclone system in the Pacific. According to reports, Tropical Cyclone Omar that hit Vanuatu is set to cross South Queensland.
Following the continuous torrential rainfall in East New Britain that washed away homes and cut off road access, the National Weather Service has issued a gale force and strong wind warning for the New Guinea Islands region as well as for the Morobe province. According to reports, a tropical cyclone system that hit Vanuatu recently is on course to cross South Queensland. Tropical storm Wutip, just north of the equator, is enhancing wind surges and widespread rain areas for the northern region and the New Guinea Islands. According to the National Weather Service, New Guinea Islands should expect heavy showers, thunderstorms and wind surges of 25 to 38 knots or 46 to 70 kilometers per hour. Patricia Kiamo, National EMTV News.
Commuters using the Medanglei Highway can now access the road. Following the washing away of a culvert at Tapo, Works Secretary David Were says the department has ensured normal traffic is restored. Were says maintaining roads and bridges remain a priority for the government, with 6 other bridges to see work commencing this year. Meanwhile, the 2 bridges at Kapiura in West New Britain are almost complete. This will also see 12 smaller bridges be maintained to standard. Still on roads, and work on the Tabubil Telefomin Road is progressing under the Go PNG and OTML at the cost of 60 million kina. Secretary Were says this is a missing link for Western and West Pacific provinces. The bad road conditions of the Lae Madang Highway, including a number of collapsed bridges, are affecting commuters and PMV operators. Frequent PMV drivers say this makes it more expensive and difficult for operators as well as the travelling public. A PMV bus driver, Boaz Wynn, says the government has yet to provide a better road for its people depending on this national highway.
Along one of PNG's main economic corridors, the Lae Madang Highway, the roads and bridges have seen a steady rate of collapse. PMV drivers who use the road daily say the broken bridges and the bad roads mean passengers are now charged extra fees to travel on more than one ride.
So people face a big problem like
PMV owners are also making losses due to the wear and tear of the vehicles.
I mean, loss of business kind of man. People stranded namel car people sana namel highway kind of so it's no proper service though. Road service that is like kind.
Drivers who have no choice but to use this national highway say most of the money generated goes back to repairing their vehicle. Earlier this month, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill was in Madang province to launch major projects. He also made a commitment to build 6 new bridges for Madang in 2019. Martha Lewis, National EMTV News.
Engau Hospital expects to resume radiotherapy for cancer patients after 6 weeks, according to Lae's Engau Hospital CEO Dr. Christopher Kennyhertz. The Chief Medical Officer of the Department of Health, Dr. Goa Tau, is meeting with the International Atomic Energy Agency in Austria to buy cobalt-60, the radioactive material used to kill cancer cells. In January, Parliament passed a law that now enables the import of radioactive material.
We met with Dr. Christopher Kennyhertz this morning, and he told us that the new radiation source for the cobalt machine to treat cancer is expected to reach PNG by April this year. Cobalt-60 is a radioactive material that supplies energy to the cancer treatment. It has to be replaced after every 6 years. The cancer unit has not had one since 2012. Now that the law has passed, the government can now import the radiation source. NGI CEO Dr. Christopher Kenyatt says the next step is to get radiation therapists and oncologists to operate the machine.
Trying to find a radiation oncologist may be difficult. Who wants to come to this part of the world? There's challenges. I'm not saying you can't overcome them, but there's challenges. And we're working through them. We have CVs, we have resumes, we're contacting. We do have interested individuals, doctors who are willing to come.
The government should have replaced the radioactive material or the radiation source of the cobalt machine 6 years ago when PNG became a member of IAEA in April 2012. That didn't happen because there wasn't a law in place to govern the use of radioactive material in the country. The passing of the bill by Parliament on the 24th of January this year and a funding of 11 million kina from a commitment of 30 million kina has made it possible.
30 million, even if you got the 30 million, wouldn't necessarily buy you a freestanding cancer center. So, but in the meantime, you have to make what you have operational to treat patients. And that's the main thing. The ideal would be to open a new center and include in that therapy a radiation or a linear accelerator to move away from cobalt so better treatment and care can be given.
For the past 6 years, patients have been told to go overseas for treatment. Those who have the money get treatment overseas. Others die because they can't afford it. Julie Badui, Owa, National EMTV News, Leh.
Operation Open Heart has been conducting cardiac surgeries in Port Moresby at the General Hospital over the last couple of days. Bank South Pacific yesterday donated 100,000 kina towards the program. BSP has been a major supporter of this program for over 15 years now.
Bank South Pacific yesterday donated 100,000 kina to Operation Open Heart PNG. The bank believes that this will go a long way in ensuring young children in PNG get the much needed operations.
BSP has been supporting this program for 15 years now, and this program has been growing and is bigger and stronger now. A lot of patients, a lot of testimonies has been coming out that it has been successful.
11-year-old Bartilani Taligatus, a success story of the program, was also present with his parents, Dennis and Nora. When Bartilani was 3 years old, his parents were told by doctors that he had a defect in his heart. Last year in August, he successfully went through the operation.
Had they left it for another year, it would have been another scenario, be a worst case. I just thank God, especially I want to thank you for BSP in bringing these people on board to come and do operation on our children of Papua New Guinea. And that really helped him get back on his 2 feet.
Operation Open Heart has operated on 8 children thus far with their first visit to PNG this year.
We'll just stay for another couple of days just to make sure the children are okay, and then we'll be on our way. Just to let you know that the support that Port Moresby is receiving from us, and you're allowing us to do that service, is making a massive difference. We've got teams of nurses who are almost independent. The surgeons are doing independent surgery. So, you know, we're almost there.
Port Moresby General Hospital's surgical team can do the closed heart operations. However, they are still under supervision when conducting open heart surgeries.
A cut down of previously we used to do big 2-week operations, but we are doing now, say we've got 8 patients this time around, and more training, and less 2 patients a day. So for the last 5, up to today we'll be doing 8 patients.
Lillian Sopera Kinea, National EMTV News.
You're at National EMTV News. Up next, we take a look at stories making headlines overseas. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, even as ISIS's self-declared caliphate teeters on the verge of losing its last sliver of land, the whereabouts of its elusive leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, remains a mystery, but perhaps not for long.
Reverberating through the streets of the old city during this Friday's sermon are words about the true meaning of freedom in Islam. But it was also on a Friday in July of 2014 when Mahmoud Dawood, an imam, says his cell phone suddenly lost reception. I saw masked men all over the neighborhood and on rooftops, he tells us. The cars came. It's the first time I see them, more than 200 with tinted windows. And then Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi showed up, declared the caliphate, himself its leader, and ordered all Muslims to obey him.
And that's exactly where al-Baghdadi gave his address.
Mahmoud says he knew in that moment that Iraq would be demolished. It's the only one of al-Baghdadi's locations that is fully confirmed. Since then, despite being hunted by the best intelligence agencies, there has been little more than brief sightings, spotty intelligence, and conflicting information. Saddam al-Jamal, a mid-level Syrian ISIS prisoner on death row in the Iraqi capital, says he never saw al-Baghdadi, but was close to those who did. About a year and a half ago, he tells us, there were attempts by foreign fighters to overthrow Baghdadi, but he had them all killed. The dissent within ISIS leadership ranks has even further shrunk the entourage around Baghdadi. The sprawling town of Shirgat is one of the areas where an intelligence source says Baghdadi moved through in 2015, holding meetings with senior commanders in safe houses.
We've been talking to residents here, none of whom will appear on camera, but they were telling us that they saw ISIS's top military commander coming in and out of this house. And numerous sources say that this is where he was killed in 2015. And an Iraqi intelligence source tells us that this house is one of the places where he would meet with Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
There were also reports that we cannot confirm that Baghdadi was wounded in that same airstrike. A senior Iraqi intelligence officer says that on at least 3 occasions, 2 in Iraq and 1 in Syria, they called in strikes that came close to taking him out. For insight into how the ISIS leader may be moving around, we head from Shirgat to the edge of Baghdadi's former hideout, the foothills of the Himreen Mountains. To the west of here lies a vast stretch of desert that leads into Syria. Exclusive images obtained by CNN show what we are told are ISIS spotter hideouts masquerading as nomad tents. Photographs of the tunnels inside the mountains, how their entrance is hidden, life inside the caves, and a brief video where one fighter discusses his injury and they all crack jokes. This is where ISIS is training its strike force and still carries out sporadic attacks.
If you look at the landscape, this is actually a very good illustration of how ISIS is now being forced to move around. They take advantage of these gorges that exist throughout this entire area. And in fact, at one point, they were actually able to, while moving through these gorges, come up and attempt to plant an IED right here on the road.
Out here, ISIS still rules the night, coming down in small groups to murder, plant bombs, and steal. The Iraqis believe they are closing in on Baghdadi, but he has eluded them more than once, disappearing into the shadows of these lawless lands.
For women and children escaping the last ISIS stronghold, there is no guarantee they will be getting their old lives back. There's one ISIS bride, Shamima Begum, who is to be stripped of her UK citizenship. Here's why Britain refuses to allow her to return and what could happen next for her and her son.
Begum shocked Britain when she skipped school 4 years ago to travel to Syria. A child who went to a war zone returned to the public eye, a young woman with child, but seemingly no regrets.
Even though I was only 15 years old, I could make my own decisions back there. I do have the mentality to make my own decision, that I did leave on my own, knowing that it was a risk.
Found in a refugee camp last week, by then heavily pregnant and pleading to come home, Begum's apparent lack of remorse appears to have underpinned the UK's decision to strip her of her citizenship. Since she was discovered, she's given birth and granted multiple interviews, during which she's aired contentious points of view. Here she is, seeming to justify the 2017 Manchester Arena attack, which claimed the lives of 22 concertgoers.
Women and children are being killed back in the Islamic State right now. And it's kind of retaliation. Like, their justification was that it was retaliation, so I thought, okay, that is a fair justification.
Mr. Speaker,
It's words like these that have alarmed the country and its lawmakers.
The House will have also seen the comments of Shamima Begum and that she's made in the media, and it will have to draw its own conclusions. Quite simply, if you back terror, there must be consequences.
I think that there will be a mixed reception to this, but the vast majority, I suspect, of British people don't particularly want Miss Begum back in this country.
Central to the UK's decision is whether Begum has access to a second citizenship through her mother from Bangladesh, meaning stripping her of her British passport would not render her stateless. However, a family representative told CNN she did not have a Bangladeshi passport and had never set foot in that country. Bangladesh says that Begum's future is a matter for the UK. Some argue Britain has a duty of care. Begum, they say, is brainwashed and likely to be suffering from mental illness after her time with ISIS and following the death of her first two children when they were months old.
When she left, she was 15, so she was a minor. Obviously, she isn't anymore. She's now 19, and the experiences that she's had overseas will need to be looked at.
Less clear and more urgent is the fate of Begum's son, born at the weekend while his mother was still a British citizen. Begum has the right to appeal against the decision to remove her citizenship. On Twitter, her lawyer said her family was disappointed and would consider mounting a legal challenge to the move.
Leonardo DiCaprio made it famous in his film The Beach, seeing thousands of tourists flock to Thailand's Maya Beach each day. Nearly 2 decades, though, since the movie's release, those visitors have caused so much damage to the environment that the beach has been closed indefinitely.
From the air, its beauty is breathtaking. Sheer limestone towers soaring out of an impossibly turquoise sea. A landscape so dazzling, it starred in a Hollywood movie. But the movie brought fame and popularity, so that the famous beach began to be crushed under the weight of visitors numbering thousands each day.
Before we cross the Maya Bay, sometimes there are more than 200 boats inside the bay, the small bay that you see, and there is not look like a bay, it look like a floating market or something like that. They disturb the sand area, some of them anchoring in a coral.
We followed a team from the National Parks Department who'd come to see how well the marine life is recovering. So we're about to go into the water here at Maya Bay. This is Kun Song. He's one of the divers who's checking on the health of the coral that they've replanted here ever since they shut it down. Mostly, we saw only dead and broken coral. This is the damage done by years of uncontrolled tourism. The new coral is embedded back in the bay floor. It will need many years to mature, but already there are visible improvements.
Yeah, we have 60 sharks, and it's a nursery ground. We have the evidence that at least 3 mother sharks get a baby born in the bay.
The initial closure was for 4 months. Now it's indefinite. There is a plan for the boats to dock on the other side of the island, for tourists to walk to the beach. In truth, no one really knows how to balance the preservation of this fragile landscape with the desire of millions to see it.
Butuka Sport is next. We'll bring you all the action after the break.
Butuka Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. A sponsorship of 70,000 kina was made to PNG Golf today by Kumul Telecom Holdings Limited to support this year's golf pennants. This is the 8th year that Kumul Telecom Holdings will be the major sponsor of the event. Golf PNG President Peter Del Monte, upon thanking KTHL, says the tournament is set to start this weekend and will see 11 teams, including representative to this year's Pacific Games in Samoa, where they will use the event as part of their preparations.
A 3-year partnership arrangement between Golf PNG and Kumul Telecom Holdings Limited witnessed a funding support in a check presentation of 70,000 kina today. Funds received from KTHL will not only go towards the funding of golf pennants, but most importantly help prepare its national athletes to this year's Pacific Games in Samoa.
Sponsorship is under Kumul Telecom Holdings Limited. In the past, the sponsorship has always been under Telecom PNG Limited. The presentation today is under Kumul Telecom Holdings. That's why today we have B-Mobile Limited, PNG Dataco Limited, and Telecom PNG Limited. We are represented in this occasion.
Golf is just one of the many other sporting codes KTHL continues to support in the country, especially in the areas of development and national and international competitions that PNG is part of. Mr. Victor says he is looking forward to not only take part and have a good time, but to also have an opportunity to network with other business houses. PNG Golf President Peter Del Monte says most of the players involved in the tournament are from the 11 participating corporate teams. Among them will be Pacific Games athletes.
This competition is about getting the club together and the teams together and having our match play championships every once a month, and plus having some social fun as well. So it's not about prize money and all that. It's about competing and having the right to say that they're the champion pennant side.
Team Telecom will bring their A game this year despite finishing last in last year's tournament. Gedisa says having the presence of 2015 Pacific Games athletes in the team may just be the answer to boosting the performance of the team, with the aim of finishing on top in round 1.
Like in the opposing team will be playing BSP this Sunday. Round 1 will be playing BSP, so our aim is to win. And again, it's the individual player will deliver the result. It's a team, but it's dependent on individual 7 players, how they perform on that round.
The KTHL Golf Pennants Mixed Tournament is expected to end in November 2019. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
The PNG Rugby Football League signed 2 significant contracts today with PNG Health Assurance Company Limited. The contract signing reaffirms the Memorandum of Agreement that was signed last month.
After 46 years, the PNG Rugby Football League has finally partnered with an insurance company that will take care of players all across the country, starting from the mini-mode level through to the Kumuls and Orchids. Last month, both parties signed a memorandum of understanding before confirming their partnership today by signing 2 contracts. The first contract signed is the group personal accident insurance cover for PNG RFL, which starts this year and ends in 2020 with the option to renew. PNG Health Assurance Company Limited will now be PNG RFL's #1 insurance partner. This will see all registered players and officials in the 6 tiers be insured by PHA.
Having an insurance company to underwrite the risk of personal injury to our players and supporters, it's a huge incentive for us. It provides the game with this feeling of safe environment, but more importantly, we feel at the PNG RFL it gives us credibility and integrity as a sporting organization as we end.
The second contract signed today covers the sponsorship agreement with the PNG Kumuls for the next 5 years. PHA will become a platinum sponsor for the PNG Kumuls team and naming rights sponsor starting next year.
Platinum sponsorship with PHA for this year and for the next 5 years, next 4 years after that, PHA will be taking over the naming rights. So it's a major partnership, sponsorship contract that is being signed today for the next 5 years with PHA as a major sponsor of the PNG
Kumuls going forward.
Deal is worth 10 million kina over a period of 5 years, and as part of the objective of taking the PNG Kumuls to the World Cup, and so that they can go on to win that World Cup.
PHA Specialist Advisor Raj Juta is excited at this new journey of being part of PNG's #1 sport. He says the signing of these contracts will help PNG RFL and PHA partner in developing rugby league in PNG.
And as part of PHA's role over the next 5 years, we want to take that rugby league to a very profitable business so that it can give back to the community and the people of PNG. That is the #1 priority of our sponsorship as we're moving along in the 5-year period.
Elijah Levet, National NTV Sports.
Stay tuned, we'll bring you more sporting action after the break.
Butuka Sports.
Welcome back to Butuka Sports. It was supposed to be one of the most highly anticipated matches of the Super Rugby season. Now, some of the air has been taken out of the Crusaders Hurricanes game in Christchurch, with several All Blacks missing, injured or resting. Those withdrawals will be offset, though, by the return of Hurricanes hooker Dane Coles.
First time in a year and a half, Dane Coles will start a Super Rugby game.
Coles is very excited. It's been a long time for him.
But it's the exclusion of a few other All Blacks that's raised more eyebrows.
So there are little challenges that pop up and due to injuries, but that's Super Rugby, and that's why you need a squad.
And that squad certainly being tested early in the season. Adi Savia the latest on the injury list, with the All Blacks straining a knee ligament on the weekend. Via Fifita still isn't back to Super Rugby fitness, but will get some minutes for the development side on Saturday. But perhaps the biggest surprise will be TJ Perenara starting on the bench. With Bowden Barrett still returning from an extended off-season, it means the Hurricanes halves combination of Finlay Christie and Fletcher Smith have just 7 starts between them in Super Rugby.
So what better place to test them in that environment?
The toughest environment of the lot. The Crusaders naming 9 All Blacks in their starting side, with midfielder Jack Goodhue pushing the impressive Braden Enor onto the bench.
Could be a bit tough on Braden, but he's a young man and he's set his stall out there with, as I say, a fantastic performance. So great to be able to keep him in the 23 and bring his energy and play off the bench at some stage.
But with all the fireworks out wide, the real firepower is once again up front.
Oh, they've done brilliantly, and it's another penalty try!
Without sounding too cocky, we do rate our forward pack, I guess. It's one of our strengths, I feel, and we'd like to try and put on a bit of a show on Saturday night.
One where the Hurricanes are hoping their understudies can play the part.
One of the front runners for the New Zealand Sportsman of the Year is free skier Nico Porteous. From an Olympic medal to success on the world circuit, Porteous is tipped for even bigger things.
He may be just 17 years old, but it seems Nico Porteous has his life on lockdown.
I'm living the life right now, that's for sure. I'm pretty lucky to be able to do what I do.
Back from the Northern season with 2 World Cup silver medals and X Games bronze, Porteous still struggles to comprehend how much his life has changed since his podium performance in Pyeongchang.
I haven't even had time to reflect on what's happened even in the last 2 weeks.
Headlined by Zoe Sadowski-Sinnott's World Championship and Alice Robinson's history-making Junior World Championship just this week, winter athletes have had their best ever Northern season. Nico paying credit to those who support the ever-improving squad.
To have all this support surrounding us that allows us to compete and be the best possible athlete we can, and that is the most important thing for anyone.
For Porteous, tonight's Halberg Awards offer a brief respite from skiing, but he returns to the halfpipe early next month for the World Cup finals at Mammoth Mountain, USA, proudly sporting the series leader's yellow bib.
It's going to be a very, very new thing to me and a very strategic game which I'm going to have to play, but I hope everything works out.
As well as the sportsman spot, Nico and Zoe have also been nominated for New Zealand's favourite sporting moment. Being recognised as a combo, a comforting feeling.
We've just kind of been thrown into this whole whirlwind, not just be all the weight on one person, kind of shared between 2, which is nice.
Can I just correct you there? You guys threw yourselves into this.
I guess we did, didn't we? Dang it, why did I do that now?
Probably because it makes him smile.
And that's a wrap on Butuka Sports. I'll be back with the weather after these messages.
Butuka Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Fine weather all across the region in Port Moresby, Daru, Kirima, Alotawan, Popondita. In the Mamasu region, fine weather in Lae, Wau and Medang. A shower or two can be expected in Wewak and Banimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, showers right across the region in Lorengau, Kavieng, Kokoporabao, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, fine weather right across the region in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that concludes the bulletin for tonight. On behalf of all the news team, pleasant viewing. Good night.